True crime, a terrible sight. World of YouTube. For years I have heard the story of this, and my wife and another person she knew heard the same story of this, of Mr. Ronald Bon Scott. Now, for those who don't know who Bon Scott is, was the original singer for AC/DC. Well, at least one of them. But he was the most, notable. Don't get me wrong, Brian Johnson has done a phenomenal job of keeping AC/DC. And believe me, that guy's voice is just hard hitting, driven to the throat. Excuse me, but something about Bon Scott's voice, man, always made me like to say, wow. I mean, when you got a unique voice like that, like Lane Staley, same way, same thing. Damn it. It's just, yeah, it's hard to find them voices. And when they make the music of great music like they did, and they could just make it right, unique and original, it's definitely hard to really find another one to replace. Of course, you'll never replace the original, but damn it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, don't get me wrong, Brian Johnson, man, I'll tell you, when I first bought the Ball Breaker album, that album right there, I kind of want to say, in my own, listening to the band for many, many years, hell, now that I think of it, and I think I've said it before, but friggin' For Those About to Rock was my first album that my mother bought, because my brother went to the concert. He bought me of course I was too young, I couldn't go, but he bought me the 1981 shirt, and my mother went out and bought the album. Of course, later on, stole by my second oldest brother. But I know I would have treasured that shirt for the longest time, but it came up missing. But yeah, listening to that band with, Brian, and then when Ball Breaker, I honestly can say that he, in that album, to me, I don't know, he kind of sounded a lot like Bon, and it was like, wow. I mean, he just got into that phase where, yeah, his rough cut voice must have just loosened up a little bit and got more, not as deep. Of course, many years screaming out them vocals, boy, voices changed, and I think he did sound, almost not all identical, but you know what I mean. I got a little Bon out of the Ball Breaker album, and I actually just bought that a few weeks ago at a friggin' flea market. Oh, I love that damn song, Ball Breaker itself. You want to talk about a hard-driven, punch-in-your-face riff? Get the album Ball Breaker. But this mysterious death, I mean, but what I remember and someone else remembers, like I said, my wife knew someone that said the same identical thing as I did, because I started talking about it to her, because she was talking about, oh, what happened to this guy? She's not all up there, like me in the music. So you kind of got to throw her a bone and say, hey, deal with the fact that she's not heavy into music like me, but. And I told her, and I started talking and stuff. And like I said, she did hear about this. I mean, but, she's not the one to let it repeat through her head. And, because, I was talking about it. What do you mean? What happened to him? And I told her about the new story. Now, the old story, what I hear, and it's, it does have Bond in the car falling asleep, and it was supposedly a friend that left him there because he passed out drunk. And like I said, back in the day they said he froze to death because as you can see, it was February. And that's what I heard. I heard another guy on the radio. His name is Mike Shue. He's actually on another radio station. Worked for the sadly lost WAAF station, rock station from Boston. But he came up with the story that Bond choked on his own vomit. And in this video, I don't know, that the guy was going on saying the same way that John Bonham died, the same way that Jimi Hendrix died. Which I don't know. Because after seeing, he said this in the video, but I don't know how that could be anything, as the same as them two rockers, because they did choke on their own vomit. I know, but who knows, crazy stuff like this comes out. And later on, hearing the second story, I never heard of the him choking on his own, Bond choking on his own vomit. But after hearing this, and now there's book out, there was a book out, I'll show the author and what he says. And this guy right here, his body was curled around the gear stick, his neck twisted, his dental plate, which if you watch old videos of Bond, he's got missing teeth. So, it becomes a good deal to become a rocker because fix your teeth. But his dental plate was dislodged. The bile rose up in his throat and blocked his asthmatic windpipe. So, that might have been throw up. But for his body to be curled around the gear stick, his neck twisted, I think there was more something sinister than just the friggin' guy waking up and throwing up and then, falling over the console and into the gear shift. And no way, man, no way. I know I've had my nights of drunk nights and throwing up. And I'll tell you, and I used to drink a gallon of rum. One night I drank a gallon of rum, then I went into Mad Dog 2020. And that cheap, horrible, cheap-ass wine is what did me in. But I know I fell asleep, passed out on the couch, and I was laying on my back, and unfortunately I went, it was like the fountain of youth, they said. I got up, and I ran out the house. And these are the crazy things I used to do, and I disappeared that night. They don't know where the hell I went. But, from experience and choking on the vomit thing, if he was laying in a car like this, like they said, this person claims because he was in 2 clubs that night, and he was driven to another club, but someone had said that right here he was not drunk at all. So, but when I get on to the next picture, And the idea that 7 double whiskeys would put him in the ground seems like a strange notion. So someone's claiming that 7 double whiskeys with this guy, right, don't even faze him. Like I said, a friggin' gallon of rum, and I'd be still partying unless I hit a bottle of Jack Daniels or a friggin' bottle of, disgusting wine. Yeah, if this man can hold his liquor, what makes them think that he's gonna pass out and die in a car is beyond me. But when it got further in the video, and yeah, there was some other things. Now this Bond hooked up with an Oriental woman, kind of like Yoko Ono and John Lennon. But also that night, and I think he was supposed to play this. What is this? May? Oh no, this was one of the shows. Someone claims that the band UFO at the time, Michael Schenker, of course, from the Mighty Scorpions, where he used to play. Michael Schenker, a great guitarist. And this band, I just started listening to some UFO songs. It was pretty damn good. I don't know how I missed that one, but back in the day. But supposedly some of these guys in the band, I don't think it even was Michael Schenker, but a singer and a bassist, as they claim in this video, were on heroin. Something new they were trying, And they say that he was with them at one point and could have gave him and he overdosed. But I don't even think that's the case. I wouldn't even think that's the case. Because you want to know why? Because not only was he with his girlfriend, he was with people, bands and so forth, drinking and partying. You know what? Bon Scott, man, he was a dirt bike rider. Supposedly he started off playing the drums, but he had a motorcycle accident. Of course, that boy was crazy on a dirt bike. Watch a video of him going around. He wiped out a couple times, but now he's pretty wild on the bike, just like he's wild. I even heard in an interview someone said that Bon Scott would come over to me when we party, and he'd be like, "These guys don't even party, man." And he's talking about, even though Malcolm did, but I just heard a story about him drinking with someone on the radio, WZLX. But Angus didn't drink or do drugs, I guess. But as you can see, that guy shouldn't even be doing that stuff either, because as wild as he was on the stage, boy, he didn't need that extra energy and juice. But he would complain about it and, whatever. It wasn't nothing bad, but cracking jokes or whatnot. But all in all, thinking, well, he could have done this, he could have done that, he was on drugs, he was da-da-da-da. I mean, this guy would talk about, remember hearing in an article back in the day, when they used to do that stuff on MTV or VH1 behind the music, that Bon Scott would be a rowdy little bastard knocking people out and stuff also. So, but one thing about Bon, I mean, I'm not trying to bust his balls, but he was a very skinny little runt. Did have a little height in him, but I think this played a factor in his death. Being a, petite man, and you could see him on the stage all the time when he sing, shirt off, very skinny, I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy was probably a beast back then in his own way. And doing crazy things is right, but I think this night, because of the fact is this. Oh, and if you want to check out the video, we got this guy here. Rock and Roll True Stories. But estranged wife. I don't care what anybody says. When an ex-wife gets involved and comes forth, Yes, sirree. I think there'll always be some sort of problem, especially when he had a woman, new girlfriend. As you can see, she seems like a feisty little, um, you know, as a picture takes 1,000 words, she seems a little bit feisty to me. And she was hanging around with this guy at the time, mind you. Now, supposedly this guy gave Bond a ride to another club and says it in the video, but supposedly passed out on the way. So he turned his car around and went back to his flat. And there, and this is supposed to be the story that I got messed up, being the friend. He was not even a friend. He was a friend of the wife of Bond Scott, ex-wife. And he said he couldn't get Bond up to his flat, so he brought him down a blanket and covered him. Now, as you can see in the other story, in that other thing I showed with the guy wrapped around here, he didn't mention nothing about a blanket. And don't you think if you're going to be struggling and getting up and moving around and getting stuck around the gear shift, there would be a blanket wrapped around you? They didn't even mention nothing. Right there, bang. There should have been the blanket still laying around the car or something. Or if he was trying to kick it off, and if he was that bad drunk like they said, I think he would have got tangled up in that, or would have been somehow wrapped around his body. But my thoughts, theories, ideas. So the next morning went to check on him, he's dead. But a petite little, just the fact of thinking of Bond being a little skinny guy, but I wonder if his wife had other plans. Now, don't mention if the guy... Oh, yeah, the guy did have 2 people over while Bond was there, too. A guy and a woman. I think it was a man and his wife. So now you have 2 full-grown men. And supposedly a drunk man in the car. But you know what? I don't think he was drunk. I think his drink was spiked with something. That's it. Bottom line. A strange wife, I think she had something done with him. Just before he got into this full-fledged relationship with this other woman. I think something would have happened to Bond. I think she would have been next of kin. Even though they were separated, who knows if they were divorced. But in 1979, AC/DC was at their peak of their career. Highway to Hell just came out. It was a huge friggin' album. Which I don't care what anybody says. All them albums were friggin' huge in my eyes. Damn good music, damn good singing, damn good. And I'm glad to see AC/DC be in the top 3 best-selling albums of all time. I wish they were #1, but of course, we know who that is. If you don't, look it up. I'm disappointed. But I can't rag on that album because it was a good album, but I ain't getting into that. But anyways, yeah. What was the motive with this freak? And this freak? And the other 2 freaks? I think Bond was killed for money. Or pure jealousy with this woman. Because you gotta think of all possibilities. And when an ex-wife is involved with a new girl, and if this person ain't over that person, well, there's something. I don't care what anybody says. Get out of here, man. Something happened. And I think Bond was held in that car while being drugged. And because he couldn't put up a good fight because he was drugged, yeah. His neck was twisted. He's trying to fight, and they just probably held him down so he couldn't move. And vomit came up, and he choked to death. That's my thoughts and theories on this mysterious death. Oh yeah, folks. Money to some brings greed or jealousy, and obsession also brings death. Sad tale, man, but that's my thoughts, theories on this. Till the next video, be safe, take care, always beware. You don't know who's out there that's gonna take your life. That's right. Ex-wife, #1 suspect.